Alrighty, stand by. Rolling. I'm Michael Janas. I am the chair of the Audio Engineering Technology Department for the Mike Curb College of Entertainment and Music Business at Belmont University. The Audio Engineering Technology Department teaches a lot of things. It teaches you how to make records. It teaches you how to mix live sound. It teaches you how to mix post-production. It teaches you the physics of how to build speakers and how to build speaker cabinets. It teaches you to walk into a room and tune a system in a 5,000 seat arena. So we cover a lot of ground, and what we're really interested in teaching students about is the audio industry. It covers a lot of territory, but we're teaching people about the audio industry. The tape recording has been part of the Belmont curriculum since 1974. This year, fall of 2023, will be the 50th anniversary of the music business program at Belmont University. And as we've gone into this, one of the things that really struck me was a few years back, I was having students write a response paper to my first big studio class called Audio 1. And this one student wrote back how cool it was to actually touch a fader and turn a sound up and down in volume as opposed to clicking and dragging on a mouse. This was 10 years ago. And I was kind of like, this student had never actually physically touched a fader other than that class before coming in. And so we had kind of started to transition more to Pro Tools, and we taught audio, the analog tape for a long time. So a few years ago, 3 years ago, I decided we need to have an elective in this again, because right along with vinyl, sort of that interest in analog tape as a niche sound, a hardware plug-in, if you will, things like that. We went back kind of to the basic elements of it, of why do you use a tape machine? How does it affect your workflow? What's the care and feeding of the tape machine, and those kind of things. It was really interesting because when I put a tape up that I had had previously, and students were like, it was fun to watch them kind of transition from, it's so cool to listen to music, there's no screen. They were really, had to get used to the fact that they couldn't immediately in a nonlinear format go and click, 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 click and get where they wanted to go. For example, looping. We're used to, well, I'm just going to loop the chorus, and we hear chorus, 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 chorus on Pro Tools or whatever until we're, blue in the face. Well, on this, you loop, it starts at the beginning of the chorus, goes to the end of the chorus, and then has to rewind. And so when students get a large section, like a verse, verse, chorus, and a turnaround, then back to the verse, they're like, well, it's so weird because you've got this space. I said, yes, that's time for you to think about what. And so it's truly kind of really changed how they think about what they do in the studio. The one thing I tell them is analog is the format of commitment, because when you hit record, it's just like shooting film. You hit record, you press the shutter, it's there, and it's not, you can't undo it. You can't erase. You can erase and then that goes away, but still everything's, you have to be absolutely sure and confident of what you're doing. Second week comes on and we track, and we spend the first half of the week tracking and overdubbing, second half of the week mixing. So on the tracking session, and the first time I offered this class, I had a student named Jackson Anderson in here. He was a really great guitar player, and he says, oh, hey, I said, anybody know a band that's in town? Oh, hey, I'm in a band. And it's like, okay, a bunch of Belmont guys that hang out and play sessions for other Belmont people or whoever. And so they came in, and it was great. And so then last year, I called them up again and said, you wouldn't happen to be interested? Oh, man, it'd be great. So they come back in. And called him again, and he came in this year. And one of the reasons I like coming in is the challenge of playing like this. If you want to punch a note on a solo, or if you want to punch anything, whatever you did before is gone once you hit record. I mean, we did a band punch, for example. So anyway, so I get a hold of Jackson, and Jackson says, oh yeah, well, I've got this singer that we're playing with a lot. And her name's Christiana Allaire, and she was a Belmont student. Most recently was on this most recent season of American Idol. And so it was fun to have her come in. She does sort of country flavored, kind of a soulful country singer. And so when we come in and set up, course, the band is used to this now, but she was, you know, kind of, oh, okay, I got to think about it in a different way than she's used to thinking of it. So it really forces the band to be economic in a way. They've got to really think about what they're going to do and where it's going to be placed. So it affects the musician's workflow. And then, of course, for the people engineering, that was also interesting, because in the process of doing background vocals, for example, last year, I had a student up there punching the background singer, and they're coming in, and the student just was off just a hair, and it would like clip the front end of a word. And okay, well, now you got to go back, so you got to think and anticipate like another 16th note ahead of where you thought, because the relays in the machine have to flip in order for you to do it. And so just trying to get, and then they dig the hole deeper, because then they go into the last line of the verse. And so then you wind up, but those kind of things sometimes work out, because then the artist is going, well, I want to sing that back line. I've got another idea for that last line anyway. And so you go back. And so it really affects people's workflow. And they also, for the performers, they like it because of the challenge. If there's no more space available and you want to recut the solo, are you happy to lose the one you just did? So it's, like I said, analog is the format of commitment. We had for us, a typical setup. I think we used 4-piece drum kit, it was an older Gretsch kit, and a variety of cymbals and stuff. Overheads, used U87s, Neumann U87s. The Soyuz, it was in 1973, I think. I used that on kick out with an RE20 on kick in, and it is fat, and that's with a PH. Because you combine those two together, bust them down to one track on tape, because I've got all these mics, but I've only got, tape is a discrete format, so you could have only got so many tracks to do. So I bust those two together, and it was just thick and tons of low end. And I think on the Soyuz, on the 1973, I had like a 20 dB pad on it. And the snare setup was very kind of a standard setup, SM57, but a lot of times, people will put a small diaphragm condenser right next to a 57 on the top. So I put the 013 up there right next to it, put a 10 dB pad on that too, the screw-in 10 dB pad on it. Got those things right together on the top. And then on the bottom, I like using RE16s on the bottom. It's super cardioid. Flip the roll off to try to lessen the amount of bottom coming into that. And it's a super cardioid, so it's really just going to get pretty much, especially that close, where you're going to aim it. The Gretsch kit's an older kit, it's an 80s kit, and one of the things that I really like on there, the toms, we have a company called Drum Paradise in town that come out and they take care of those, the drums for us. And for some reason on the Gretsch kit, those Electro Voice egg mics, those ND408s, they get the right crack for those drums. Room mic, I had one of those active voodoo ribbons, with the null pointed at the drums and that kind of stuff. On bass DI, we've got one of those Neve DIs, Phantom Power Neve DIs, and that always sounds good and buttery. Then we had acoustic guitar. We had one of the 017 FETs, and that was the right mic on the right guitar with the right player on it, because it was so easy to dial that tone in. And we ran, of course, a lot of things through the SSL, but a lot of stuff we were bussing through. Like, for example, on the 2 kick mics I had, I don't remember which was which, but I had one of them going through a Neve pre and one of them going through an API pre. Brought those back in the console, bust them together, a little bit of EQ, and sent them on. And but with the acoustic guitar, I went through one of our Millennia pre's, came out of that to a 560 API graphic and into an 1176. It just sounds really good. It's bright, but it's not overly bright, but it's easy to push in and out of a mix. You can always tell it's there. Even when you have it really low, you take it out and it's like, I'm missing something. You put it back in there and it's back. Or you can push it up and it's got nice clarity to it and nice mid-range. It doesn't bark in the mids or anything like that. And on the 2 guitar amps, so there was one guitar amp that we used for steel, and we used for some rhythm stuff too. And with that one, we had a 013 mic with a 10 dB pad, and I had that next to a ribbon mic and blended those two things together. And that was, again, a really good combination because the ribbon had this thick thing, thickness to it. But with the 013 coming in, you've got that sort of like adding the clarity to the attack and those kind of things. The second guitar player, one of the songs he was using a Blues Junior on. And so for that, I tried out the bomblet. And so I used the bomblet, the 023, used the bomblet with another ribbon mic, and that was just this gorgeous, thick, meaty sound but it had the clarity. It was a heavier sound than the other amp. And that was really fun to hear through. With the vocalist, we use the 017 tube mic. And with that one, we've got a variety pack of mic preamplifiers here. And one of the things we did several years ago, the tech we had, Sal Greco, he had started his career at Electric Lady in New York. He had built Paisley Park, and then he was hired away by Alan Sides to come here to Nashville to build Ocean Way. And when Belmont acquired Ocean Way, he became part of the Belmont family. So one of the things that he did with students was build mic preamplifiers. And usually we would use the same designs for different things. So one of them was the spheres. And so the sphere, like the API, it's that same early 70s era. So with her, with Christiana, what I used was I used the 017 tube into a sphere pre, came out of that, into a Tube Tech compressor, came out of the Tube Tech compressor and went into a DBX 165A, a vintage one. And I've done this for years with different vocalists. If one compressor with 6 to 8 dB of compression on a vocalist, it's not going to sound right. But you put 2 compressors and you touch them each like 2 to 3 dB, not much at all, and you set the attack and release times differently. It really just kind of pushes them forward. And even when they sing soft, it's still full, it's still present. It doesn't sound like, when she really sings out strong on a chorus, it doesn't crush her. It's just, they're both operating differently and it pulls the vocal forward. And that was just a good combination of change because she's got a pretty bright voice and that's a pretty bright mic. But putting that on there with that just that specific combination of stuff and a lot of transformers in there, just really kind of smoothed it out, brought her forward, kept all that clarity, it didn't get murky and muddy. It was really good.
Yeah, you don't have to lie here. Oh.
Piano, we used just a pair of large diaphragm condensers, I think SE 4400s, I think. So the bass player had a 5-string. We went through a Neve DI. And from the Neve DI, I went into we've got an MCI channel strip. We go into that, and then out of that into the LA2, and then straight into the tape machine from that. And I was really pleased with that combination because when he goes down on the bottom string, you can actually hear it, and it's full, and it doesn't like diminish or pop up too much. It sounded really good. The Audio Engineering Technology Department, we cover a lot of ground. Check belmont.edu, links are down in the description. I'll be happy to talk to people about that anytime. If you want to check out the session files, click the link in the description. That way you can solo things up, you can hear some of the sounds that we ended up with. Also check out Christiana Allaire. She's such a fantastic singer. It was such a joy to work with her, and her links are also in the description as well. I really appreciate Soyuz letting us check these mics out. I had a lot of fun using them. They're really heavy, and you should really pick one up and check one out.